T.S. Eliot argues that poetry is best when it doesn't stray too far from the common discourse. I think that today, poetry needs to be responsive to how we read and what we read daily. I feel that we read more advertisements, more newspapers, more slogans and logos than we do poetry or fiction. We're used to knowing where the McDonald's arches, or the Nike swoosh, or the Starbucks double-tailed mermaid are than we are where the nearest poem is. And I think that today, if poets want to succeed, they need to find a way of creating poetry that somehow responds to the way we read and what we read every day. We read logos, we read slogans. And so I try to create work like this one that somehow try to create poetry and still get into the joyous outpouring of language. The way words appear on a page, the way they spread across, the way language can look like Lego scattered across your playroom floor and put together into any shape you want. I believe that poetry is best when it combines these two things, that playful nature of what Lego can be and the organized reference and suggestions of logos and slogans. My visual poetry, like this piece, are all made with letraset, old dry transfer lettering that used to be everywhere. Graphic designers, advertisers, all used this to set type before the advent of personal computers. Nowadays, it's hard material to find. Nobody really uses it except poets. Now we can try to create work like this, one letter at a time, rubbed down by hand and placed onto the glass. Every letter you use is stuck there forever. This may not look like poetry to some, but it contains that same kind of emotional investment in language. Poetry is supposed to be fun. Poetry is supposed to be playful. Poetry is supposed to be invested in how language works within us. All of those things, I believe, can be found in this work as well. It can be fun, it can be playful, it can be joyous, and it can actually be kind of interesting to look at. It straddles that line between poetry and art, between graphic design and logos, and a way of playfully engaging with language. Truman Capote famously dismissed Jack Kerouac's writing, saying, "That's not writing, that's typewriting." Samuel Beckett did the same about William S. Burroughs and said, "That's not writing, that's plumbing." That's not writing, that's typing. That's not writing, that's someone else typing. That's not writing, that's Googling. That's not writing, that's pasting. That's not writing, that's blogging. That's not writing, that's wasted, unproductive time. That's not writing, that's stupid. That's not writing, that's a coloring book. That's not writing, that's coming up with ideas. That's waiting, that's a mad scribble. That's not writing, that's pointing and lettering. That's not writing, that's tape recording. That's not writing, that's following the herd, word processing, copying and pasting. That's not writing, that's directing. That's not writing, that's using highfalutin words to confuse readers. That's not writing, that's aggregating, and there are already plenty of aggregators out there. That's not writing, that's printing. That's art, that's Tourette's, that's posing, that's button mashing, and anyone can do that. That's not writing, that's vandalism. That's not writing, that's acting. That's blabbing, that's hiking. That's just a knife he's using to eat pie with. That's not writing, that's bullying. That's not writing, that's dentistry. That's not writing, that's just endless blathering. That's not writing, that's yelling. That's not writing, that's butchery. That's a fortune cookie. That's emoting. That's just dressing it up. That's not writing, that's just playing around. That's not writing, that's daydreaming. Poetry is a wide enough area that can combine all sorts of things. It can have a long and emotional text that you actually have to read and reread to get into its subtleties. It can have items that are instantly recognizable and just blink at you, bing, like a moment, like a poetic logo. It's a large field. It can have all of these things. There is room in poetry for all of these kind of responses because at their core, they're all engaged with language and how language reflects our experiences.